Hi, and welcome to this series, Balancing Life. The session today will focus on working and schooling from home, and this is part one, where the emphasis will be on working from home while your children are likely schooling with you. I'm Crystal Tyler Mack, and I'm happy to lead this session on behalf of the Virginia Cooperative Extension Human Development Program team. So does your workspace look like mine? These are my new office mates. It's a little different having a third and fifth grader in the space with you, but we are figuring it out, as I'm sure you're figuring it out in your spaces as well. So speaking of spaces, by now you may have realized it would probably be helpful to identify a specific physical workspace. So what does your workspace look like and what is available? Think about a space that you might identify as your primary space for working while you're at home. It may be a table, a desk. Some people have repurposed closets to be a workspace. It may be the corner of a room or perhaps a whole room that's available to become an office space. Whatever that space might be for you, consider a space that is comfortable, that fits your work style and preference, and that is away from things that are distracting to you. That may be television that's distracting or children's play areas. But think about what that space is and really find a spot that could be a dedicated workspace for you. Now, it's different when everyone is at home together. And so for many of us, we've had to come up with ways to signal to those in our home that there's something going on work-wise and we can't be interrupted at that particular time. In my household, it's a vase. So my family is very kind and they know that if I put the vase in the doorway, it means that I'm doing something much like this where it can't be interrupted at that particular time. So that's the signal for me. Maybe you have a signal, maybe you don't. Perhaps you could engage your children in doing this with you. Maybe your children would be interested in helping you make some signs, some stop and go signs. Put the stop sign up when you should only be interrupted for emergencies, or the go sign up when it doesn't mean, free reign necessarily, but you could be interrupted a little more frequently. But whatever your signal is, make sure you don't leave the stop sign or the vase in the doorway or whatever your signal is up for too long, because it would quickly lose its effect if it were used to say that you couldn't be interrupted when you really could. But think about what those signs and signals might be for you. It would also likely be more helpful to have a scheduled time when you're going to work. Even if you didn't, work in that way when you went into a physical office, many people find it more helpful to have a structured schedule when you're working from home. So think about that schedule, your timing, the hours that you're going to work. And then remember to take breaks. Take some time, get up, stand up from the desk, the computer, and remember to do those breaks. Some of those things naturally happen when you're in an office environment, but it's a little harder to remember to do sometimes when you're not there. And don't forget to eat lunch. Take the time to stop and nourish yourself and get recharged. So think about your schedule. As you're planning out your workday and figuring out what needs to get done, think about when you have those important meetings or the times when you need to really get focused and concentrate heavily on something. And if you have another adult in the home, perhaps you can trade off childcare with that adult. I know in my home, I'm fortunate that my husband is also working remotely. And so when I have a session like this, my husband is the primary go-to. My children know that if there's an emergency at that time, they go to him. If they have a question about schoolwork, they go to him. Remember, while the vase is in the doorway. And then when the vase comes out of the doorway, they know to come back to me. And when he can't be interrupted, the same thing, the children know to come to me. So figure out ways and strategies you might do that. Some families with younger children have opted to, flex some of the scheduling so that maybe the first 2 hours of the day, one parent is primarily in charge of monitoring the younger children, and then they trade off for another 2 hours. But if you have that opportunity, work together and figure out a strategy that works. Um, think about nap time and quiet time as an opportunity to get some specific types of work done as well. So younger children are napping. It's a great time for you to get some work done. Give the older children some quiet time at that place too. Maybe they're not going to nap, but they could certainly use some quiet time as well. So think about that and strategize that. And then think about your children's, you know, personalities and timing and when they might be best equipped to do some self-directed activities. If that's in the morning, then set them up with some activities that they can do primarily on their own and let that be a time where you get some of the heavy lifting out of the way for your work when you know that they will need a little less of your attention and time. So then you think about how are you going to get your work task done in this new space, this new environment? Well, you're probably going to have to revisit priorities, and you're going to have to really think through what you prioritize. And when you do that, you're going to have to set very realistic expectations. It's a different place, it's a different environment. And so, really attending to what's realistic and what can be done will be important for you. Think about a true balance. It's a little more difficult when you don't have the visual and the physical separators between an office space away from home and work at home. So really try to be intentional about saving home tasks for home hours and doing work tasks during work hours, and have some boundaries there. So really be attentive to that. It's really easy for those things to spill over when work life and home life are all in the same place. But be attentive to those things. And then think about yourself and caring for yourself. So when you come to the end of what should be the end of your workday, do something that will help you transition your mind, something that signals it's the end of the workday. For some of us, that might be taking a walk outside. For others, it might be changing clothes, getting into something comfy. I really like to get into a t-shirt and sweats at the end of the day, and that signifies that I'm done. Shut down the computer. It's a lot harder to go back and get back pulled into work when you have to turn on and log into the computer than it is if it's open and you happen by it and see an email, and pretty soon you're drawn back into work things. So shut the computer down, play with the children, announce to them, I am done, and then immediately, kind of transition and get engaged into something that is not work related. But take care of yourself and do something that signals that transition, because you no longer have the natural transition of leaving the office or going home. Or even if you worked remotely from home before, you had a signal. If your children came home from school, we don't have those signals anymore, so we have to put them in place and establish them for ourselves. And those will be important for us to maintain good balance and keep going on the things that we have on our plates with work and our children's schooling. And because none of us have really walked this path before, it's new for all of us. Be willing to both share tips and strategies that have worked for you, as well as to ask and learn from others. What are some tips and strategies or resources that they found that have been working? And continue sharing and building those, because again, it's uncharted territory and we're all learning day by day. So here's another suggestion that I heard about recently and thought it was a great idea. How about when you're working, connecting with some other trusted adults, grandparents, or others that may not be physically in the same space with you and your children, but could get on a video chat with your children and keep them engaged? They could do art, they could do singing, they could do games, they could just chat. They could take virtual visits around the world to museums or or other opportunities. So your children are physically in the space with you and being supervised, but they're engaged with someone else that they love, that they trust, that you trust. And it's good social connection for them as well as the grandparent or other adult while you're able to spend a little more effort focused on school. So, focused on work. Um, so think about what you might be able to do. Be creative and of course be willing to share those tips with others because we're all navigating this new territory together. And so how do you support your children at home? Because as new and as different as all this is for us, it's also new and different for our children. So Child Trends has shared 3 tips, and they refer to them as the 3 R's that we can remember for helping our children monitor and moderate this new territory. The first R is reassurance. Our children need us to reassure them that they're safe, and they need this information in a way that's age appropriate. So our younger children, 6 and younger, they probably don't need much detailed information, probably wouldn't understand a lot of detailed information. So give them some information. They know something's going on. So help them, talk with them through a little bit what they might need. Your school-age children probably have already posed some questions and will continue to have some questions and possibly some concerns and fears. They may not want to sit down and have a long, drawn-out conversation with you about it, but they'll want to know some things and they'll have some questions. So pace it out and listen to them and try to the extent possible to have those conversations be driven by your child. There's information that we know they should have, and then there's sometimes information that we think they have questions about or are concerned about, and we may be way off base. They may be concerned about something that we think they're completely fine with, or they may not have any concern whatsoever over something that we think they're scared about, and then the conversation doesn't go quite as we intended. So try to have those child-directed conversations with your school agers. Your tweens and teens absolutely still need you as a primary go-to. You want to be there to give them factual information. Most of our teenagers have access to social media where they can certainly reach out and get some great connections and feedback and support and information, but they can also be exposed to lots of misinformation and inaccurate information that could conjure up even more stress or anxiety. So be a go-to for them. Give them factual information. Say you don't know when you don't know, but have those conversations and be available to reassure your children. You'll have to maintain some level of calm. Certainly, sharing with them that you have concerns, that you miss people just like they miss people, that you wish you could go do some of the things that they're missing as well, but you'll have to be a calming influence for them. So that's the first R, reassurance. The second R is routines. Children of all ages thrive on routines. The research has told us this for many years. But each family should figure out a routine that works for them. So sure, there are those families that love the Pinterest posts that have an hour by hour color-coded schedule. I can tell you that doesn't work very well in the Mackey household, but for some that may work. Most of us will have some routine that makes sense for us. So not rigid, but something that gives some consistency. Knowing what to expect and having some routine, some schedule, some predictability is reassuring and comforting for children. And guess what? For most of us adults as well. So even if it's like what we make sure happens in this household, Taco Tuesday, my husband makes sure we have Taco Tuesday. Even if we have to be creative with the ingredients, there's always Taco Tuesday. Maybe your routine has to do with here's what we do when we wake up, here's what we do before each meal, here's what we do before bedtime, but some level of routine and predictability is especially helpful when other things around us are uncertain. And then the third R is regulation. So we work as parents and as adults to help our children understand how to regulate their own emotions and responses to stress. We need that regulation as adults as well. And one of the best ways to ensure that we can help them regulate their emotions and we can regulate ours is by taking care of our physical and emotional needs. We need to sleep. We need to sleep well. Now, I know a lot of adults, we've had a little trouble sleeping lately, falling asleep or staying asleep or getting quality sleep, but we need to have a healthy sleep routine. We need to eat properly. We need to drink plenty of water, stay hydrated. And then we also need to tend to our emotional needs and the other parts of ourselves. We need to engage in our creative outlets. Maybe that's, something in the arts, coloring or drawing or painting. It's connecting with nature outside, listening to the birds sing, taking a nature walk. Maybe it is doing some things around poetry or music. It could be prayer or meditation or journaling. Whatever those outlets are, we need to be tending to those things so that we're better equipped to handle the other stressors that may come along. And our children need those as well. So, those three R's, reassurance, regulation, and routines, are critical for helping to support our children. And I'm going to remind you and remind me that we'll have to be patient, being patient with ourselves and with the others around us. And guess what? We're going to try some things and they're not going to work. Can I tell you how many times we moved desk and furniture around this house? We have a hole in the wall right now to prove it. Desk upstairs, nope, desk downstairs, desk here, desk there. Figuring out strategies and routines that work, it's new. It's probably not going to work perfectly the first time, maybe not even the second time, but you keep readjusting and you're patient with yourself and with those that are at home with you. I want to thank you for joining us in part one. You can find more about this series on the Virginia Cooperative Extension Facebook page or by visiting the website